The well-being of women is critical to the sustenance of functional societies. This is due to the roles women play from the smallest unit of society as both homemakers, mentors, role models, and many times the spiritual pillars of families. A complex situation encompassing physical, mental, and emotional well-being, all of which cannot be overemphasized. These unwritten duties explains why the health of women folk should be priority. Unfortunately, many are so engrossed that they forget to look out for themselves. And so on this week's episode of Health Options, we shall be focusing on uterine fibroid. It is one of the most common medical conditions among women of childbearing age. Trust us to bring you something fresh and useful on our Nature's Corner. You do not want to miss it. I am Salwa Kalal Ibrahim. Thanks for tuning in. Uterine fibroids, commonly known as fibroid, are non-cancerous tumors. It can be as small as a seed or get as big as a ball of watermelon. They occur most often in people between the ages of 30 to 50, and many are unaware that they have it. What are the causes of fibroids? Are there symptoms to look out for? Can fibroid be managed? Answers to these questions and the treatment will come in the course of the program. But first, we take this quick time out.
In a land of peace and harmony, we cherish our freedom and unity. But around the world, we've seen how protests can spiral into chaos. What starts as a peaceful protest can sometimes end in anarchy, tearing communities apart.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back those harrowing days.
So those who experience it will run away from it.
Let's learn from these experiences. Let's value dialogue over destruction. Together, we can build a brighter future. Let's choose unity. Let's choose peace. Join us in the Peaceful Future Initiative, because together we can make a difference.
I'm now joined via Zoom by Professor Priye Fierbai, a professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital. He is also the President, Association for Fertility and Reproductive Health in Nigeria. Many thanks for joining us, Prof.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Okay, now could you give us more insight into what fibroid is really and its variant?
So uterine fibroids are growths in the uterus that come from the muscle. Uterus is made up of several layers, a covering that is called the serosa, the muscle, and then the inside of the uterus called the endometrium. So fibroids grow from the muscle cells, and each single muscle cell is believed to be the origin of a fibroid that grows. They come in different sizes and different sites, But the most important thing is that they are benign growths or benign tumors. That means that they are not cancerous. And so the fear that a lot of people have about fibroids should be allayed, because luckily they can easily be dealt with, especially if you are able to make the diagnosis appropriately and timely. And depending on the desires of the individual, there are various ways of handling them.
Okay, so Prof, why are we seeing this more among women of younger age these days? And how does it affect reproduction too?
Okay, so fibroids have always existed, and they are found more in black women than in other races. The diagnosis is increasing in our environment because of the increased awareness and increased access to ultrasound scan, amongst other things. They could affect fertility in certain ways, and fertility could also be negatively affected by fibroids. So it works in several ways. The effect of fibroids depends on their size, on their site, and whether or not they are causing symptoms. The site could either be inside the womb, that is where the baby normally stays, called the endometrium, or in the muscle layer, those ones are known as intramural fibroids, or it will also be on the outer part of the womb, that is inside the abdominal cavity, and those ones are known as subserous fibroids.
Okay, now, for the one inside the womb, could that stop conception? And if otherwise, now, how would that be in terms of conception for women who are pregnant and have fibroids?
So opinions differ on how these things can cause an effect on pregnancy and how they can negatively affect fertility. However, their presence within where the baby is supposed to rest many times impairs implantation at the early stage when pregnancy is also occurring. So we generally would want to remove those fibroids. Luckily, those tiny ones can easily be removed through the cervix by a procedure known as hysteroscopy. So you don't really have to open up the woman to remove such fibroids. And depending on their size, they could actually be removed even when they are large, using various methods of that hysteroscopy. And it avoids the main problem of going to do major operation by cutting the woman open. So those kind of fibroids primarily can affect fertility. For those who get pregnant, fibroids tend to grow faster during pregnancy and grow much bigger, and they can cause some problems during such pregnancies, ranging from miscarriages in the early stages to premature delivery to malpositioning of the baby. That means the baby doesn't stay in the right position, to preventing the woman from carrying out a normal vaginal birth and necessitating cesarean section to deliver the woman. And they could also cause bleeding either before delivery or after delivery. Sadly, a lot of women are misinformed, even by medical practitioners, that you should avoid operation until you finish having your babies. And sometimes you detect fibroids when they are relatively small, and they continue to grow till they become very large, sometimes growing to the size of even a 9-month pregnancy, simply because some people feel that you should first of all conceive before you start dealing with fibroids. So in our climate, in our environment, we see much larger fibroids than are seen in the Western world, because intervention is carried out much earlier in the Western world. And the methods through which you can remove these fibroids are much easier and less invasive.
Many thanks, Prof. Now, we'll take a breather here. Stay with the NTA.
Some say learning is fun, but as a mom, I see how demanding it can be for my child. That's why I ensure he starts every day with a cup of Bonvita. Give your child Bonvita. contains essential vitamins and minerals that support mental and physical vitality. Bonvita. Prepare them to win every day.
Thanks for being there. The program is Health Options on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We have been looking at fibroids, types, management and treatment with Professor Priye Fabi. Thanks for staying on the line, Prof.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, now we've spoken a lot about uterine fibroids now. Are there symptoms, or how can women now get to know they have fibroids?
Majority of women are asymptomatic, meaning that they don't have any symptoms. And it's only when you get to the hospital that you are informed that you have fibroids.
Okay.
Others go for ultrasound scan for different reasons, and then they are told that, oh, on your scan, we found that you have fibroids. Beyond that, some also present with symptoms, and these symptoms most times relate to the menstrual period. Women who have very heavy menstrual flow on many occasions, that heavy menstrual flow is caused by uterine fibroids. And the term in medicine is called menorrhagia, and in such situations you may need to remove such fibroids. Outside that, you could also have pressure symptoms. When the fibroids are large, they could compress organs within their vicinity, ranging from the bladder, which would result in increased frequency of urination, amongst other things. It could also compress the intestines, causing all sorts of complications such as constipation and challenges with your normal passage of stool. Then you could also feel a mass. And some of these women come complaining of something that is moving up and down, around and around. And it's when you examine them and do investigation that you're able to determine that they have uterine fibroids.
Okay. Now, can fibroids be avoided considering maybe lifestyle changes? Or is it due to something women do or eat? Can it be avoided?
Sadly, the cause of fibroids is not known. One thing that is definitely known is that it's more common amongst black women than other races. And they are not a problem in all situations. However, they need to be monitored appropriately. So, managing them will require regular medical evaluation for the woman. And of course, evaluation of the genital tract is not just limited to fibroids. Recently, the government has been talking about screening for cervical cancer, amongst other things, and that is part of the whole exercise of evaluation. So women should have regular medical checkup, including genital tract examination. And if the gynecologist feels that something needs to be done, then you will be so informed. The treatment per se, maybe we'll talk about that later. But
I was coming to that, Prof.
Okay.
The best option for treatment of fibroids.
For treatment. The treatment of fibroids is to remove the uterus completely. That's hysterectomy. However, most women who have fibroids either have not had children or still desire to conceive, and you cannot remove the uterus in such situations. Therefore, we can remove the fibroids alone while preserving the function of the uterus. You could do an open abdominal myomectomy, meaning that you cut open the anterior abdominal wall and then go to the uterus, remove the fibroids, repair the uterus, and then put it back. Or you could carry out minimal access surgery, known as laparoscopy. So you put in something like a camera and some other tubes that contain instruments, and without cutting the woman open, you can operate within the abdominal cavity and remove fibroids that are existing there. Some big fibroids can also be removed through the vagina, known as vaginal myomectomy.
Okay, so now, Prof, are there other treatment other than surgical procedures for treatment of fibroid? Now, why do we keep seeing it reoccur or grow back?
Women who have predisposition to growing fibroids are usually advised when such surgery is done that they should try and conceive as quickly as possible because the recurrence rate can be high, but it is not always that high. Not everyone has the same predisposition, but some people are unlucky and they grow fibroids in large numbers, and in such people they tend to also regrow them even after you may have done operations to remove them. The regrowth is not a regrowth of those that you have removed, but growth of new fibroids from other muscle cells that are still existing within the uterus. You asked a question about other methods. Yes, outside surgery, there are other ways that fibroids can be dealt with, including a procedure known as high intensity focused ultrasound, where high intensity ultrasound rays are used to melt those fibroids. Then you could also have ablation of the uterine arteries, meaning that you block the arteries that are supplying the fibroids, and that causes them to sort of die off and gradually melt. You could also have radiological interventional radiology, where you pass in tubes through the vessels that now supply those fibroids to reduce the blood supply to them and eventually get them to die off. If you are bleeding heavily, there are various ways that drugs that can be given to help to control that bleeding. But it does not cure the fibroids. It simply manages the symptoms while buying time to either carry out surgery or carry out any other intervention. There are also drugs that can be given to shrink the fibroids in preparation for surgery. And these drugs are usually in the form of injections, but they have a limitation. You can't give them for more than 6 months because of the side effects that they have. And when you stop those drugs, the fibroids tend to grow back and may even grow bigger than what they were before. So we most times give them when we are preparing to operate or do something significant with regards to the fibroids. They could also be useful in women who are close to menopause, because it's been shown that it is the hormones that are secreted by the ovaries, basically estrogen and progesterone, that help the growth of the fibroids. But when you are close to menopause, the ovaries gradually cease to function, and then estrogen and progesterone are no longer secreted. And those kind of drugs can be given to tide you over, pending when you now get to menopause. And thereafter, you don't need to do any other thing after that.
Okay, many thanks, Professor, there for that information.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
We've been speaking with Professor Priye Fairby, a professor of obstetrics and gynecology, University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital. Many thanks for watching.
I greet viewers once more. If someone has HIV, what comes to mind immediately is issues of CD4 count and the viral load. So by this, what is CD4 count? CD4 count is the immune system of the human system or the animal system. It has a complex involving different organs, the white blood cells, the spleen. And it gives the human system its protective coverage from the one of birth. So it's not only in HIV that it is critical. It is critical in all ill health because it is the innate defensive mechanism a human being is born with. So you acquire it through the innate. You may acquire it passively or in an adaptive manner while by various ways of the contacts you make with chemicals from diseased people or from other relationships. So this is how we can define the CD4 of a system. And in a typical HIV patient, usually their immune system, that is the CD4 count, falls as low as to 50, madam, between 50 to 250. So when the tests are done, and it is found that you have a CD4 count of like 50, 100, 150 to 250, there's a need to immediately start to manage you and look for a means of increasing. Because lower than 250 down, it is considered to be critical. They need to increase the CD4 count immediately, and that's why these patients are put on ART. But as we do it, and as it's done, ART is the antiretroviral therapy, which is a very common system of handling HIV patients all over the world, treatment all over the world. But however, in other climes, and including our own area, where folklore medicines are becoming popular and all that, there are various items within our tropical system here that has the capacity to increase the CD4 count and better the immune system of sufferers without side effects. From the research we have done, we found out that once your immune system is well boosted, your CD4 count falls within 500 and the 1,500 cells by decimeter of blood, you see that no illness comes your way easily. Your immune system is very strong because your system is such that once you are exposed to any illness, your immune system identifies the kind of microbe that has caused those things, so that when next the attack is coming, they will simply gather together and in a phagocytic fashion descend on the microbe and take care of it. Those group of natural products that can boost the CD4 count and the immune system, the first on the list is the mint, the popular mint leaf that you know about. They cost little to nothing, but they are very, very, very effective when it comes to boosting of the immune system. Well, you can dry them and then make them into tea, which you can use on daily basis. There's no situation that it can cause you any ill health once you use it in this manner. The popular coconut, which you know about, the liquid is very critical. When we use it along with ugu leaf and others, it boosts the immune system. Even the liquid alone. Even it can be made to work like plasma. The plasma that we give people drip when the system of the human being has less of this fluid, it can be given in place of all this dextrosaline and co that we are given. I'm still working on that to get a kind of dextrosaline from this. The back of this coconut, this back here, has a very strong immune boosting properties. You put it, dry it in the sun, you grind it into powder. After washing it very well, you also put it in the oven to make sure that any microbe that is there, bacteria, fungal, or whatever, are taken care of. When it's made into powder, you can use it as tea or put it in akamu or whatever. It also has the capacity to boost the immune system. And for HIV in particular, it's very, very good. This is the powder of this I just spoke about, this one. This is the powder here. It's been subjected to all that, and you can see me taking it, of this one. You can put it in custard, akamu, and whatever. It goes a long way to do this thing. This, no.
You can share your experiences with us on www.nta.gov.ng, where you can also view these and previous episodes of Health Options. This is it on this week's episode of the program. Many thanks for your company. I am Salwa Khalil Ibrahim.